My name is Edmund Kemper III. I am speaking to you from Vacaville State Prison, where I have resided since 1973. I am serving 8 life sentences. There is no possibility of parole. I will die here. This is not a complaint. It is a statement of fact. I was born on December 18th, 1948, in Burbank, California. My mother was Clarnell Elizabeth Kemper. My father, Edmund Kemper Jr., left when I was young. He was not a strong man. My mother made sure I understood that. She despised weakness. She despised men. And she despised me most of all. She told me I was like my father, worthless. She saw cruelty in me even as a child. She punished me severely, forced me to sleep locked in the cold, damp basement, among the spiders and the rats. This began when I was 8 years old. She called me names. Stupid oaf. Freak, especially freak, because of my size. I was always large for my age. By 15, I was already over 6 feet tall. An easy target for her rage and humiliation. She made me feel monstrous, long before I ever committed a monstrous act. The hatred festered. It curdled inside me. At 15, I was sent to live with my paternal grandparents on their ranch in North Fork. My grandfather was strict, an old-fashioned disciplinarian. My grandmother, Maud, she was sharp, critical. She saw me through my mother's eyes, I think. One day, August 27th, 1964, an argument happened. It was about chores. It escalated. The anger, the feeling of being trapped, judged, despised, it boiled over. They had given me a .22 caliber rifle. I took it. I went into the kitchen. My grandmother was standing there. I raised the rifle and shot her in the back of the head. She fell. I stood over her. I shot her again in the face. I remember the sound. The stillness after. Then I realized my grandfather would be coming home soon. I didn't want him to find her. I didn't want the questions, the scene. So I waited. I hid outside. When he drove up, I shot him through the car window as he got out. Then I walked over and shot him again on the ground. I called my mother. I told her what I had done. I said, I just wondered how it would feel to shoot Grandma. Then I waited for the police. I felt nothing, a profound emptiness, a strange calm. They sent me to Atascadero State Hospital. Diagnosed me as a paranoid schizophrenic, criminally insane. I learned the system, I studied the psychological tests, I observed the doctors. I learned what they wanted to hear. I became a model patient, articulate, compliant, insightful, or so they thought. I told them about my childhood. I expressed remorse. I played the game perfectly. They believed I was cured, rehabilitated. At 21, in 1969, they released me, paroled me, straight back into the custody of the woman who started it all, my mother. She hadn't changed. The hatred was still there, the constant belittling, mocking my size, telling me no woman would ever want me, calling me a freak, reminding me daily of my worthlessness. She worked at the University of California, Santa Cruz. I got a job nearby. with the California Highway Department. I lived under her roof, under her thumb. The emptiness inside me grew. It became a void that needed filling. The anger, the humiliation, the desire for control. It needed an outlet. It started as fantasies, violent fantasies, about women, young women, college students, like the ones my mother worked with, like the ones who wouldn't look twice at me. In May of 1972, I picked up Marianne Pesce and Anita Lucchesa hitchhiking near the university. I drove them to a remote area. I stabbed Marianne first in the back seat. Anita tried to run. I caught her. Stabbed her too. I put their bodies in the trunk, took them back to my apartment. My mother was away. I worked on the bodies, disarticulated them. I kept parts, buried others. I felt a sense of power, a grim satisfaction. The silence I craved after the noise of my mother's voice was finally there, but it was temporary. The compulsion returned. In September, I picked up Aiko Ku, another student. Hitchhiking. Similar scenario. Remote location, knife. The body in the trunk. Back to the apartment. Dismemberment. Disposal. The pattern was set. The next was Cindy Scholl in January 1973. Picked up hitchhiking, shot her in the car, put her in the trunk. Took her to my mother's house. My mother was asleep upstairs. I dismembered Cindy in the basement. I buried parts, kept the head for a time. The proximity to my sleeping mother, it felt significant. Like a defiance. A secret rebellion against her control. Rosalind Thorpe and Allison Liu. Picked them up together in February, near a bus stop. I shot them both. Rosalind first, then Allison, as she tried to flee. Took them to a secluded spot. Left them there. I didn't take them home. It felt sloppy, unsatisfying. The control wasn't absolute, but the urge was satisfied for a time. All along, I frequented a bar called the Jury Room. I drank with off-duty police officers and sheriff's deputies. I listened to them talk about the killings. The co-ed killer. They had no idea. I enjoyed that. The proximity. The secret knowledge. My size, my apparent harmlessness, my ability to converse intelligently, it was the perfect camouflage. I had a police scanner in my car. I even considered becoming a police officer myself. The irony isn't lost on me. But everything always came back to her, to Clarnell. The source of the poison, the constant critic in my head, the living embodiment of my humiliation and rage. On Easter weekend, 1973, April 20th, it reached its peak. She had been particularly vicious, we argued. The hatred filled me completely. That night she was in bed reading. I took a claw hammer from the kitchen. I walked into her room. I struck her in the head. Repeatedly, I killed my mother. The feeling was immense. A release unlike anything before. But it wasn't enough. The years of torment demanded more. I cut off her head. I put it on a shelf in the living room. I shouted at it, ranted at it for hours. Finally, I took her larynx with the vocal cords and tried to force it down the garbage disposal. It jammed. It wouldn't go down. It spat it back out. Even in death, she wouldn't be silenced. The symbolism was crude, but potent. I knew it was over. I had crossed the final line, but the compulsion wasn't fully spent. Her friend, Sally Hallett, was coming over for brunch the next day. I let her in. I killed her too. Strangled her. It was an experiment. Could I do it? Would it feel the same? It didn't. It was empty, pointless. I got in my car. I drove aimlessly for days through Nevada. Into Colorado, I listened to the radio, heard reports about the murders. My mother's murder, Sally's. The manhunt. The void inside me was vast, but now it was filled with a different kind of emptiness. The game was up. The control was gone. The silence I had hunted for was replaced by a crushing finality. I felt weary, exhausted by the weight of it all, the pretending, the hiding, the constant internal storm. On April 24th, 1973, outside Pueblo, Colorado, I pulled into a phone booth. I called the police in Santa Cruz. I told them who I was. I told them I was the one they were looking for, the co-ed killer. I told them I killed my mother and Sally Hallett. They didn't believe me at first, thought it was a crank call. I insisted. I told them details only the killer would know. I told them where to find my car. I told them I would wait. I sat by the phone booth. I waited. They came. They saw me. They arrested me. I cooperated fully. I confessed. To everything. In detail. Calmly. Precisely. The mask was off. The performance was over. They brought me back. Processed me. Interviewed me. I told them everything. The hitchhiking, the killings, the dismemberments, the locations of the bodies or what remained. I laid it all out, coldly, logically, like I was discussing someone else's life. Because, in a way, the person who did those things, he felt like someone else. A separate entity driven by compulsions I couldn't fully control, yet chose to feed. Now I am here, Vacaville. For over 50 years I read. I listened to the radio, I talked to the occasional interviewer. I am a model prisoner. They call me Big Ed. I am studied. Curiosity. Do I regret it? That's a common question. Regret implies a conscience, a sense of moral wrongness that causes pain. I don't feel that pain. I understand the acts were wrong, societally, legally. I understand the horror they caused, the lives destroyed, the families shattered. I can articulate that, but I do not feel, not in the way you mean. The part of me that might have felt remorse, it was buried long ago. Perhaps it was crushed under my mother's hatred in that basement. Perhaps it died with my grandparents. Or perhaps it never existed at all. I cannot manufacture a feeling that isn't there. The truth is simply this. I did these things. I am the one who did them. And I live with the consequences, such as they are. In this cell, the quiet giant, the co-ed killer, Edmund Kemper. That is the truth. Take it for what it is. It is neither a boast nor an apology. It is simply what happened.